For most of history, women in China were expected to follow strict social norms. The Confucian doctrine of the three obediences and four virtues emphasized that a woman must submit to her father before marriage, her husband after marriage, and her son in widowhood. Their roles were largely confined to the household, raising children, maintaining family honor, and serving their families. Education was often reserved for men, and political power was seen as a male domain. But history tells a different story. Despite these restrictions, some women rose to prominence, shaping the course of Chinese history in ways that defied expectations. In royal courts and noble families, women wielded influence behind the scenes, advising rulers, managing vast households, and making critical decisions in times of crisis. Others broke even greater barriers, leading armies, engaging in diplomacy, or shaping intellectual and cultural thought. Their rise to power often came at a great cost. Many of these women faced accusations of manipulation, cruelty, or violating moral codes. In a world where female authority was seen as unnatural, they had to be more than just intelligent and resourceful. They had to be politically shrewd, strategic, and, in some cases, ruthless. But through their ambition and determination, they left behind legacies that shaped the future of China. These stories go beyond history books. They remind us of the universal struggles that women have faced throughout time in their fight for recognition and influence. They are stories of resilience, strength, and the pursuit of power in a world that often sought to silence them. Today, as we look back at their achievements, we gain a deeper understanding of the past and inspiration for the future. These trailblazers showed that leadership is not defined by gender, but by vision, courage, and ability. For centuries, Lady Hao was little more than a name in ancient texts, her true legacy hidden by time. Unlike many powerful women whose stories were passed down through legends, Lady Hao's history was rediscovered through archaeology. And what it revealed was extraordinary. She wasn't just a consort, she was a warrior, a high priestess, and a political force in the Shang dynasty. The Shang dynasty, which ruled from around 1600 to 1046 BCE, was one of China's earliest civilizations. Its kings sought guidance from the divine, using oracle bones to communicate with ancestors. These inscribed bones became some of the earliest written records of Chinese history. And within them, the name of Lady Hao appeared again and again, revealing a woman who was unlike any other of her time. Unlike most women of her era, Lady Hao was not confined to the inner court. She was one of King Wu Ding's many wives, but she distinguished herself through intelligence, military prowess, and spiritual authority. Oracle bone inscriptions describe her as a powerful general, leading thousands of troops into battle against rival states such as the Tufang and Chang. These were not just symbolic roles. Lady Hao personally commanded forces, devised battle strategies, and secured major victories for the Shang kingdom. But her influence didn't end on the battlefield. Lady Hao was also a high priestess, performing sacred rituals that connected the Shang rulers with their ancestors and deities. In the Shang dynasty, religious power was closely tied to political authority, making her role as a spiritual leader just as crucial as her military achievements. She was a rare figure, both a warrior and a divine intermediary, a woman who held power in multiple realms. For centuries, Lady Hao's story remained hidden, but in 1976, archaeologists made an astonishing discovery: the intact tomb of Lady Hao at the ruins of Yin, near modern-day Anyang. Inside, they found over 1,600 burial goods, including bronze weapons, jade ornaments, and ritual vessels. Axes, swords, and helmets confirmed her role as a military leader, while ceremonial objects highlighted her spiritual influence. The tomb also contained evidence of human sacrifices, a practice common in Shang royal burials, further proving her elite status. This discovery transformed Lady Hao from a name in ancient inscriptions into a fully realized historical figure. She was not just a queen or a wife. She was a leader in her own right, a woman who defied the expectations of her time. Her story challenges the traditional image of women in ancient China, proving that even in a deeply patriarchal society, exceptional women could rise to power. Lady Hao's legacy stands as a powerful reminder that history is shaped not only by kings and emperors, but by those who dared to break the mold and forge their own path. Lady Xian was a leader unlike any other. Born in 512 CE into the Xian clan of the Li people, she lived through one of the most turbulent periods in Chinese history. While wars, rebellions, and shifting dynasties threatened the stability of the empire, Lady Xian became a force for peace, diplomacy, and unity in the Lingnan region, what is now southern China. As a hereditary chieftain, Lady Xian inherited leadership at a time when neighboring clans were in constant conflict. But instead of relying on war to maintain control, she used wisdom, diplomacy, and fairness to mediate disputes and bring people together. Her ability to govern with justice and compassion earned her deep respect, not just from her own people, but from the imperial courts of 3 successive dynasties. The Chun emperor even gave her the rare title of Lady of Qiaogua, recognizing her remarkable contributions to the empire. Lady Xian wasn't just a peacemaker, she was a unifier. She worked tirelessly to integrate the Baiwe people with Han Chinese culture, encouraging intermarriage and cultural exchange. At a time when ethnic divisions often led to violence, her efforts helped bridge differences and strengthen regional stability. But her leadership wasn't limited to diplomacy. She also played a key role in suppressing rebellions and maintaining order. During the Ho Jing Rebellion, she successfully convinced her husband, General Feng Bao, not to join the insurgents. Instead, they sided with Chun Baxian, who later became Emperor Wu of Chun. This decision helped stabilize the region and reinforced her reputation as a strategic and loyal leader. Her reputation for justice extended even within her own clan. Lady Xian was known for punishing wrongdoers without bias, enforcing discipline while still ruling with compassion. She abolished human trafficking in her region, standing against a practice that was common at the time. Her leadership was not just about maintaining power, it was about creating a fair and just society. Even after her death in 602 CE, Lady Xian's legacy endured. She was honored with numerous posthumous titles, and temples were built in her memory throughout Lingnan. To this day, she is remembered as the saintly mother of Lingnan, a leader who chose unity over division, diplomacy over war, and justice over tyranny. Her story is a testament to the power of wisdom and compassion in leadership. In an era when strength was often defined by military conquest, Lady Xian proved that true strength lies in bringing people together. Lü Zhi was not born into power, but she seized it in a way that changed history. Born in 241 BCE during the late Qin dynasty, she was married to Liu Bang, a low-ranking official who would later overthrow the Qin and establish the Han dynasty. At first, she was simply the wife of a rising warlord, but through intelligence, ambition, and ruthless political skill, she became the first woman to rule China. Lü Zhi's rise was not easy. During Liu Bang's rebellion against the Qin, she and her children were captured by his rival, Xian. She endured years of captivity, but when Liu Bang finally emerged victorious and became the first emperor of the Han dynasty, she was named empress. Her survival through those early struggles proved her resilience, but her real test came after Liu Bang's death in 195 BCE. As Empress Dowager, Lü Zhi assumed power on behalf of her young son, Emperor Hui. But while Hui was emperor in name, she was the true ruler. She issued imperial edicts in her own name, something no woman had done before. She even adopted titles traditionally reserved for emperors, making it clear that she was in charge. Lü Zhi's rule was marked by both competence and cruelty. She stabilized the Han dynasty, strengthened the government, and maintained peace. But she was also ruthless in eliminating rivals. One of her most infamous acts was her revenge against concubine Qi, a favored consort of Liu Bang. Seeing her as a threat to her son's rule, Lü Zhi had Qi subjected to horrific torture, turning her into what historical records describe as a human swine. Even her own son, Emperor Hui, was so horrified that he withdrew from governing, leaving Lü Zhi with complete control over the empire. Her political maneuvers extended beyond personal vendettas. She orchestrated the downfall of powerful generals like Han Xian and Peng Yu, consolidating power within the imperial court. She also elevated members of her own Liu clan to high-ranking positions, ensuring her family's dominance over the Han government. But this strategy came at a cost. After her death in 180 BCE, the Liu clan was overthrown in a violent purge known as the Liu clan disturbance. Her family's influence was completely erased, and the Han dynasty restored power to the Liu family line. Lü Zhi's legacy is one of contradiction. On one hand, she was a capable ruler who maintained stability in a fragile empire. On the other, Her ruthless tactics made her one of the most feared women in Chinese history. She shattered expectations of female authority and proved that a woman could rule a vast empire, but at a great price. Her story is a reminder of the challenges faced by women in power. In a world that viewed female authority as unnatural, she had to be more than just intelligent. She had to be ruthless. And while history remembers her as both a skilled leader and a tyrant, one thing is certain: Lü Zhi was the first woman to rule China, and she changed the course of history forever. Wu Zetian's rise to power is one of the most extraordinary stories in Chinese history. Born in 624 CE into a wealthy and educated family, she received an exceptional upbringing, studying literature, history, and philosophy, an opportunity rarely given to women at the time. Her intelligence and ambition set her apart from an early age, paving the way for her unprecedented ascent to the throne. At just 14 years old, Wu was brought into the imperial palace as a concubine of Emperor Taizong. Though she started as a low-ranking consort, she quickly gained recognition for her sharp intellect and administrative skills. But when Taizong died, palace tradition dictated that his concubines must retire to a Buddhist convent. Most women in her position would have faded into obscurity, but not Wu Zetian. She found a way back to the palace, becoming a concubine of the next emperor, Gaozong. Over time, she maneuvered to eliminate her rivals, including Empress Wang and Consort Xiao, securing her place as empress in 655 CE. From that moment on, she was no longer just a consort, she was in control. When Emperor Gaozong suffered a debilitating stroke in 660 CE, Wu Zetian effectively ruled in his place. And when he died in 683 CE, she refused to step aside. Instead of allowing her sons to govern, she continued to wield power as Empress Dowager, ruling from behind the scenes. But Wu Zetian was not content to govern indirectly. In 690 CE, she did something no woman had ever done before. She declared herself emperor, founding the Zhou dynasty and becoming the sole ruler of China. Her reign was marked by sweeping reforms that reshaped the empire. She lowered taxes, improved agricultural production, and reduced forced labor requirements for peasants. She expanded the civil service exam system, ensuring that government officials were chosen based on merit rather than noble birth. Under her rule, China strengthened its borders, expanded its influence, and flourished economically and culturally. Wu Zetian also elevated Buddhism, using religious texts to justify her rule. She commissioned Buddhist statues, built temples, and promoted the idea that a female ruler was part of divine prophecy. At the same time, she systematically weakened the power of aristocratic families who had long dominated court politics, ensuring that her authority remained unchallenged. But Wu Zetian's rule was not without controversy. Her rise to power was marked by ruthless political purges, and her opponents accused her of cruelty and manipulation. Confucian historians, who believed in male superiority, portrayed her as a tyrant who used deception and violence to maintain control. Stories of her ordering executions, poisoning rivals, and even eliminating family members were spread widely. Whether these accounts were exaggerated or not, they cemented her reputation as both a brilliant and formidable leader. In 705 CE, after more than half a century in power, Wu Zetian was forced to abdicate in a palace coup. She died shortly after, at the age of 81. Her dynasty was erased and China returned to Tang rule, but her legacy could not be undone. She remains the only woman in Chinese history to rule as emperor in her own right. Wu Zetian's reign is still debated today. Was she a ruthless usurper or a visionary ruler? A cruel tyrant or a capable administrator? In truth, she was all of these things. She broke every rule, defied every expectation, and proved that a woman could not only govern but thrive as China's supreme ruler. Her story is a testament to ambition, intelligence, and resilience. And though Confucian scholars tried to erase her achievements, history remembers her as what she truly was, the only female emperor of China. Ban Zhao was a woman ahead of her time. Born in 45 CE into a family of scholars, she defied the norms of ancient China by becoming one of the most influential intellectuals of her era. In a society where women were expected to remain in the background, Ban Zhao proved that knowledge could be just as powerful as political authority. Her journey began with her family. Her father, Ban Biao, was a respected historian, and her brother, Ban Gu, was appointed to continue writing the Book of Han, a historical record of the Han Dynasty. But when Ban Gu died in prison, the responsibility of finishing this monumental work fell to Ban Zhao. Despite living in a patriarchal world, she was recognized for her literary and historical expertise, completing the text and securing her place as the first known female historian of China. Her influence didn't stop there. Ban Zhao became a tutor to the women of the imperial court, including the empress, shaping the education of the most powerful women in China. She advocated for female literacy, arguing that women should be educated, not to challenge men, but to better fulfill their roles as wives and mothers. In doing so, she walked a fine line between upholding traditional values and pushing for progress. Her most famous work, Lessons for Women Nu Jie, became one of the most influential texts on female conduct in Chinese history. Written as a guide for her daughters, it outlined the virtues of humility, obedience, diligence, and morality. She advised women to respect their husbands, prioritize family harmony, and practice self-discipline. Yet, unlike many Confucian scholars of her time, Ban Zhao also emphasized the importance of education for women. She believed that an educated woman could serve her family and society more effectively. The text covered 7 key topics: humbleness, husband and wife relationships, respect and caution, a womanly qualifications, wholehearted devotion, implicit obedience, harmony within the family. Though Lessons for Women reinforced traditional gender roles, it also provided a rare acknowledgement of female intellectual potential. Ban Zhao's influence shaped the way women were educated for centuries, making her one of the most significant female scholars in Chinese history. Her work sparked debate among later generations. Some view her as a trailblazer who subtly pushed for women's education within a restrictive society. Others argue that her writings reinforced the very patriarchal structures that limited women's freedom. But regardless of interpretation, her impact is undeniable. Ban Zhao proved that knowledge could transcend gender barriers. She earned the respect of emperors and scholars alike, leaving behind a legacy that influenced Chinese thought for generations. At a time when women's voices were often silenced, hers was heard and remembered. Princess Pingyang was not just a princess, she was a warrior, a leader, and a driving force behind the rise of the Tang dynasty. Born in 600 CE as the third daughter of Li Yuan, she grew up in a time of political instability. The Sui dynasty was crumbling under Emperor Yangdi's harsh rule, and the empire was on the brink of collapse. When rebellion broke out, Pingyang did not stand on the sidelines. Instead, she chose to fight. In 617 CE, her father, Li Yuan, launched a rebellion against the Sui dynasty. At the time, Princess Pingyang was living in the capital with her husband, Chai Xiao. As tensions rose, Chai Xiao fled to join Li Yuan's forces, but Pingyang stayed behind. Instead of seeking safety, she took action. Disguising herself in men's clothing, she secretly returned to her family estate in Taiyuan. There, she began building an army. Her strategy was brilliant. Rather than relying on brute force alone, Pingyang used diplomacy and compassion to win the support of local warlords and commoners alike. She provided food and aid to starving villagers, earning their loyalty. Her forces followed strict discipline. Unlike other armies that looted and pillaged, hers protected the people. Because of this, thousands willingly joined her cause. Her army, known as the Nyangzi Jun, or Army of the Lady, quickly grew to an estimated 70,000 troops. With her leadership, they launched a series of successful military campaigns, capturing key cities and weakening Sui control over northern China. Her victories were instrumental in paving the way for her father's final push to take the Sui capital, Chang'an. In 618 CE, after Emperor Yangdi's downfall, Li Yuan declared himself Emperor Gaozu, founding the Tang dynasty. His success would not have been possible without Princess Pingyang's efforts. She had not only secured territory, but had also built public support for the new regime. Despite her crucial role in shaping the empire, Pingyang never sought recognition. She remained a dedicated leader, always putting the dynasty before herself. Sadly, she passed away in 623 CE at just 23 years old. Her father, Emperor Gaozu, insisted that she be honored with a grand military funeral. When officials objected, saying that military rights were only for men, he refused to back down. She was no ordinary woman, he declared, ensuring she received the honor she had earned. Princess Pingyang's legacy lives on as a symbol of strength, intelligence, and leadership. She proved that women could not only take part in war, but could also lead armies and shape history. In a time when women were expected to remain in the background, she stood at the front lines, fighting not just for her family, but for the future of an empire. Consort Yu's story is one of love, loyalty, and ultimate sacrifice. She lived during the tumultuous final years of the Qin dynasty and became the beloved consort of Xian Yu, the hegemon king of Western Chu. Their bond was unshakable, but their fate was doomed, caught in the struggle for control over China. Born around 224 BCE in what is now Jiangsu, Consort Yu was known for her beauty, grace, and deep devotion to Xian Yu. She was not just his companion. She stood by his side through every battle, every triumph, and every loss. As Xian Yu fought against Liu Bang in the brutal Chu-Han contention, she remained with him, sharing in his hardships and witnessing the rise and fall of his dreams. Their story reached its tragic climax in 202 BCE at the Battle of Gaixia. Xian Yu's forces were surrounded by Liu Bang's army. To break his spirit, the Han soldiers sang Chu folk songs, making it seem as though even his homeland had abandoned him. With morale crumbling and defeat inevitable, Xian Yu composed the famous Song of Gaixia, lamenting his lost strength and uncertain fate. My strength once lifted mountains, my spirit filled the world. But times have changed. The glory fades, never to return. Consort Yu, seeing his despair, performed a final sword dance and responded with her own sorrowful verse. The Han army is everywhere. My lord has no escape. Thinking of you brings endless sorrow. What fate awaits me now? She refused to be a burden to Xian Yu, knowing he would never leave her behind. Instead, she chose to take her own life, dying by his sword. It was an act of love and loyalty, one final sacrifice to ease his burden in his final moments. Overcome with grief, Xian Yu fought his way out of the encirclement, but, unable to escape his fate, took his own life soon after. Their tragic end cemented their legacy, turning them into symbols of devotion and honor. Consort Yu's story has been immortalized in literature, opera, and poetry. The Peking opera Farewell, My Concubine captures the sorrow of her last moments, while poets like Su Shi and Yuan may have written about her unwavering loyalty. Her tomb, known as the Tomb of the Beauty, still stands in Lingbai County, a quiet testament to a love that transcended death. Though history is often written by the victors, Consort Yu's legacy endures. She remains a symbol of love, sacrifice, and unbreakable devotion, a tragic heroine whose story continues to be told across generations. Empress Dowager Cixi was one of the most powerful and controversial women in Chinese history. Rising from a low-ranking concubine to the de facto ruler of the Qing dynasty, she controlled the empire for nearly half a century. Her rule was marked by political intrigue, modernization efforts, and fierce resistance to change, earning her both admiration and blame for China's struggles during the final years of imperial rule. Born in 1835 into the Manchu Yehanara clan, Cixi entered the Forbidden City at the age of 16 as a concubine of the Xianfeng emperor. Her fortunes changed dramatically in 1856 when she gave birth to his only son, Zaichuan, the future Tongzhi emperor. This secured her position in the imperial court, but her true rise to power began after the emperor's death in 1861. With her 5-year-old son ascending the throne, Cixi saw an opportunity. She allied with Empress Dowager Cixi and influential court officials to stage a coup against the regents appointed by the late emperor. The successful takeover allowed her to rule as co-regent, marking the beginning of her decades-long control over the Qing dynasty. Cixi's influence was undeniable. Even though women were forbidden from directly ruling, she governed from behind a silk screen, issuing orders while maintaining the illusion that her son, and later her nephew, held power. Under her leadership, China saw both progress and turmoil. During the Tongzhi Restoration, she oversaw efforts to modernize China's military, infrastructure, and education system. She supported the introduction of railways, telegraphs, and modern weaponry, while also promoting industrial development. But despite these advancements, she remained deeply conservative, resisting Western political reforms and clinging to traditional imperial rule. One of the most controversial moments of her reign came in 1898, during the Hundred Days Reform. The young Guangxu emperor, whom she had placed on the throne, attempted to implement sweeping reforms to modernize China. Seeing this as a threat to her power, Cixi acted swiftly. She staged a coup, placed Guangxu under house arrest, and took full control of the government once again. Her rule faced even greater challenges during the Boxer Rebellion of 1899 to 1901. Initially, she supported the anti-foreign Boxer movement, believing it could rid China of Western influence. But when the rebellion failed and foreign armies occupied Beijing, she was forced to flee the capital. To regain her position, she agreed to harsh foreign demands, further damaging her reputation. In her final years, Cixi attempted to introduce reforms, including the abolition of foot binding and the preparation for a constitutional monarchy. But it was too late. The dynasty was already on the brink of collapse. She died in 1908, just one day after the Guangxu emperor, leading to speculation that she had him poisoned to prevent a shift in power. Cixi's legacy is deeply divided. Some see her as a shrewd and capable ruler who preserved the Qing dynasty for as long as possible. Others blame her for resisting change and contributing to the empire's downfall. But one thing is certain: she defied the limitations placed on women in imperial China, ruling with an iron grip in a world that never expected a woman to wield such power. Her story is a testament to ambition, intelligence, and the complexities of leadership. Whether seen as a villain or a visionary, Empress Dowager Cixi remains one of the most fascinating figures in Chinese history. Throughout China's long history, powerful women have left an undeniable mark on dynastic politics and culture. Whether as warriors, rulers, scholars, or diplomats, these women influenced the course of history in ways that defied societal norms. In a world where male dominance was the standard, they proved that leadership was not defined by gender, but by vision, intelligence, and strength. Empress Lü Zhi set a precedent for female political power in the Han Dynasty. She ruled with authority, eliminating rivals and stabilizing the empire during a fragile transition. Wu Zetian shattered all barriers, becoming the only woman in Chinese history to rule as emperor in her own right. Empress Dowager Cixi, from behind the curtain, controlled the Qing dynasty for nearly 5 decades, making critical decisions that shaped China's fate. Each of these women played a pivotal role in their respective dynasties, proving that female leadership was possible, even in a deeply patriarchal society. Beyond governance, women like Princess Pingyang and Lady Hao demonstrated their military prowess. Pingyang's Army of the Lady helped establish the Tang dynasty, while Lady Hao commanded troops in battle during the Shang dynasty. Their leadership showed that women could not only participate in warfare, but also lead with strategic brilliance. In the realm of intellectual and cultural influence, Ban Zhao's writings shaped Confucian ideals for generations. Her work, Lessons for Women, reinforced traditional gender roles, but also promoted female education, an idea that subtly challenged the limits placed on women. Her legacy ensured that noblewomen had access to learning, allowing them to navigate court politics and contribute to the intellectual fabric of China. Despite their achievements, these powerful women faced immense obstacles. Confucian ideology emphasized male authority and female obedience, making it difficult for women to claim power openly. Even when they succeeded, they were often portrayed as ruthless, manipulative, or dangerous. Lü Zhi was feared for her political cunning, Wu Zetian was branded a tyrant, and Cixi was blamed for China's decline. Yet their male counterparts, who employed similar strategies, were often praised as strong rulers. Many of these women had to operate from behind the scenes. Empress dowagers ruled through their sons, and female scholars had to frame their teachings within the constraints of Confucian ideals. Even those who led armies, like Princess Pingyang, saw their contributions minimized in official records. Their struggles highlight the challenges women faced in gaining recognition, even when their impact was undeniable. The legacies of these women extended far beyond their lifetimes. Wu Zetian's reign sparked debates about female leadership that continued for centuries. Her example proved that a woman could govern effectively, challenging traditional gender norms. Similarly, Ban Zhao's writings on Confucian ethics for women became foundational texts, shaping female education in later dynasties. While many of these women operated within patriarchal frameworks, their stories inspired future generations. Princess Pingyang and Consort Yu became symbols of loyalty and courage in folklore and literature. Even as Neo-Confucianism in later dynasties imposed stricter limitations on women, their contributions served as reminders of what women could achieve under extraordinary circumstances. Today, these historical figures continue to inspire discussions about gender equality and empowerment in modern China. Their struggles and triumphs highlight both the resilience of women throughout history and the ongoing challenges they face in achieving full equality. Their stories remind us that history is not just shaped by emperors and kings, but also by the women who defied expectations, challenged traditions, and left a lasting impact on the world. For more details on this topic, check out the corresponding article on our website. You can find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.